Did you know Mexico once ruled the Philippines? Let's uncover the fascinating, forgotten connection between these two countries. It's one of those historical truths that sounds like a piece of trivia from a board game, but it's a profound reality that shaped the destiny of millions. For over 250 years, the fates of these two nations, separated by the vast Pacific Ocean, were intricately woven together. This wasn't a casual relationship. It was a direct line of governance, trade, and cultural exchange that flowed not from Europe, but from the heart of the Americas. So often, when we think of colonialism, we imagine a straight line from a European capital to a distant territory. But history is rarely so neat. The story of the Philippines under Spanish rule is a fantastic example of this complexity. The administrative hub wasn't Madrid, but Mexico City, the capital of the Viceroyalty of New Spain. This geographic and political reality meant that the Philippines was, for all intents and purposes, a colony of a colony. This created a unique cultural fusion, a blend of indigenous Filipino, Spanish, and Mexican influences that we can still see and feel today, even if we don't always recognize its origins. In this video, we're going to pull back the curtain on this forgotten era. We'll explore how this long-distance relationship worked, who the people were that traversed the Pacific, and what lasting legacy this Mexican connection left on Filipino culture, language, and even its architecture. It's a story of galleons, silver, soldiers, and words, a story that complicates our understanding of empire and identity. So let's get started. Mexico City, not Madrid, was the true center of gravity for the Philippines for 2.5 centuries. Imagine you're a Spanish official in Manila in, say, 1750. You need a decision on a new trade regulation, or you need reinforcements to deal with a local uprising. You wouldn't send your request across the Indian Ocean, around Africa, and up to Spain. You would place it on the next galleon sailing for Acapulco, Mexico. From there, it would travel overland to the Viceroy's palace in Mexico City. The decisions, the funding, the policies, the officials, they all came from Mexico. This created a fascinating dynamic. The Philippines was deeply influenced by the specific brand of colonial culture that had developed in Mexico. It was a culture already blending Spanish and indigenous Nahua traditions. For example, if a new law was passed in Spain, it would first be sent to Mexico City. The viceroy and his advisors would interpret it, adapt it for the regional context, and then pass on their version of the orders to Manila. This bureaucratic buffer meant that the Philippines was receiving a filtered, Mexicanized version of Spanish rule, a reality that would have profound consequences for its cultural development. This connection was maintained by one of the most remarkable maritime routes in history, the Manila-Acapulco galleon trade. For 250 years, massive Spanish galleons made the perilous journey across the Pacific, linking Asia and the Americas. These ships carried silk, spices, and porcelain from Asia to Mexico, and in return they brought back vast quantities of silver mined from places like Zacatecas and Potosi. But they carried more than just goods. They carried people, and a surprising number of those people were Mexicans heading to the Philippines. It's estimated that over 35,000 Mexicans made the journey. Who were they? They were a diverse group. Many were soldiers or soldados, sent to man the garrisons and fight in Spanish campaigns in the Philippines. Others were sailors and merchants seeking their fortune. But a significant number were also convicts and political exiles. The Spanish authorities in Mexico often used the Philippines as a penal colony, a place to send troublesome individuals. These people from all walks of life, soldiers, sailors, artisans, and even prisoners, brought their culture, their language, and their DNA to the shores of the Philippines. The sheer number of Mexican arrivals is, honestly, staggering when you consider the population at the time. By the 1700s, historians estimate that 1 out of every 40 people living in the Philippines was of Mexican descent. Let's try to put that into perspective. That's about 2.5% of the total population. Imagine walking through Manila or any major port town in the 18th century. The presence of these Mexican soldiers, administrators, and settlers would have been unmistakable. They weren't just a handful of foreign officials, they were a significant and integrated part of the colonial society. And this wasn't a temporary presence either. Many of these Mexicans settled permanently, marrying local women and raising families. Their children, Filipino mestizos with Mexican heritage became a distinct social class. They were often found in the military, in local government, and in trade. This demographic shift meant that Mexican culture wasn't just something experienced through official decrees or imported goods. It was lived, breathed, and passed down through generations in Filipino households, creating a deep personal connection that went far beyond the formal structures of empire. Chapter 5. One of the most tangible legacies of this connection is language. When these thousands of Mexicans arrived, they brought their own linguistic landscape with them. While Spanish was the official language, the everyday speech of many of these soldiers and settlers was peppered with words from Nahuatl, the language of the Aztecs and a lingua franca in central Mexico. These words were absorbed into the local dialects and are still used in the Philippines today, often without people realizing their origin. The most famous example is tianguis, the Filipino word for a flea market or bazaar. This comes directly from the Nahuatl word tianquistli, but there are many others. The Filipino word for mother, nanay, is thought to be from the Nahuatl nantli, tatay for father from talatli. Words for food items like camote, sweet potato, from camotli, chocolate, chocolate, from zocolatl, and sayote from chayotli, all made the trans-Pacific journey. These words are not just linguistic curiosities. They are edible, spoken monuments to a shared history, hiding in plain sight in everyday conversation.